the basic verb knock or listen. But a phrasal verb like drop by, meaning visit, has nothing to do with drop. So it changes the meaning of the verb. For example, if you're discussing marriage and when you're going to get married, there's a huge difference between to settle down in your 30s and to settle in your 30s. One of the things I find students doing is they add the little particle because it sounds right to their ear, and they don't realize that maybe they shouldn't be adding that particle because it is often going to change the meaning of the verb. So settle down in your 30s is a nice positive thing. Settle in your 30s is a lot more negative, a very different meaning. So there are some problems with teaching phrasal verbs, as most of you already know. I'm going to review them quickly and then we'll focus much more on the solutions. So one problem is that phrasal verbs are polysemous. So this is a nice word. They're polysemous, meaning they have more than one meaning. For example, you can take out food, you can take out a girl, you can take out a rival mobster, but the meaning is going to be different for each of those meanings of take out. On the right, you can see the number of senses for these top 100 phrasal verbs. So go on is the most common phrasal verb, at least in the British national corpus, but it has 5 different meanings. Carry out has 2 different meanings, set up has 15 meanings, and pick up can have 16 meanings. So these are phrasal verbs. Almost all of them have more than one meaning, except for look up, that are polysemous. So they have polysemy that students have to deal with. And you also in designing and teaching your lessons. So at the end, I will make this entire presentation available to you. This is your list of the top 100 phrasal verbs, and we're going to get to frequency in a minute. So they're polysemous. Other problems, as somebody mentioned in the chat, a couple of people mentioned, the meaning isn't obvious. When you run out of milk, it doesn't have anything to do with running, and it doesn't have anything to do with the word out. When you run over a bridge, it's very different from running over a cat, right? The meaning would be completely different. The meaning isn't obvious. By the way, I don't think we talked, Chris, about questions. Since there aren't very many people here, feel free to use the reactions or the participant and then raise your hand, or just wave and maybe Chris will notice. They can be similar looking. Make up and take up look similar but have very different meanings. Take out and make out have very different meanings. To make up with your spouse is very different from making out with your spouse. They all have different meanings. And here's on the right side, when you give something up for Lent, you might give up meat for Lent, or you give up chocolate for Lent, but you can also give it up for Lent, and that's going to change the meaning again. So give it up for and give something up for would be different meanings. Another problem is that you can have one verb. Here's an example of the verb take with 9 different particles. And each of those 9 different particles is creating a new meaning for the verb. Some of them have nothing to do with the original verb take. Students also struggle with other things besides the polysemy and the lack of obvious meaning. There's also that the particles often don't match their prepositional meaning. So give up has nothing to do with the direction up. It could be transitive or intransitive. So for example, take off a sweater is a very different meaning from the airplane is going to take off. So transitive and intransitive, the same phrasal verb could have different meanings. Of course, separable and inseparable. If you've ever taught phrasal verbs, you know that that's something you need to address with students, where to put the object. And formal or informal. We know that all phrasal verbs are informal, but how informal? Because some of them are still perfectly acceptable in a professional business meeting or even in some academic writing. In general, I tell my students to avoid them in academic writing. So my solutions, I'm going to present 3 strategies and some online activities that can help you deal with or focus on each of those strategies. Strategy number 1, focus on frequency. 25 phrasal verbs make up 33% of all the phrasal verbs that students see. So in teaching phrasal verbs, I would recommend that you think about going back to that list of 100 and just take that first column. The first column is actually 26. Take that first column and teach those phrasal verbs first, even though they may be seemingly unrelated to each other. Also, the 100 phrasal verbs that you saw in an earlier slide, they make up half of all phrasal verb occurrences. So that would be a good place for students to start, either with you in the classroom, or you could share these statistics with students and tell them, here's where you should start. These are the ones I recommend focusing on. So for strategy number 1, I have a solution or an activity that would help you target this focus on frequency. And it starts with, so here's the beginning of that list. It's not the full list, but this will give you the top 25. And you saw in the earlier slide about polysemy, that's where you can see the full 100. One of the things you'll notice also in this list is that you can see go on is almost 3% of phrasal verb occurrences, and carry out is 2%, as is set up. And then the numbers drop off from there. But you can see that all of these 0.9s, they're basically equal frequency. And the 0.8s and the 0.7s, and then all of these 0.4s are equally frequent or equally common. So one strategy is to go to something like Quizlet.com. This is, sorry, I can't, I'm going to need to stop the share for a second in order to get to this link. Back to the sharing so you can see it again. So all you really need to get to this Quizlet, which has the 100 most common verbs, is Quizlet.com and these numbers. But again, I'm going to share with you the entire presentation, so you'll see the link later. I'm going to, sorry, that's not working either. Let me, here we go. This is the answer garden page that isn't working. This is the top 100 phrasal verbs. Is everybody familiar with Quizlet? You could put in the chat, Y for yes, N for no. Give me an idea of how many people are familiar with Quizlet. Looks like everybody is. Great. Okay. So as you know, so I won't give you the features of Quizlet, but I'll give you the features of this particular Quizlet a little bit. You can see that each of these phrasal verbs is listed on the left, and what you'll see on the right is both a definition and a sentence. So they get some context and the meaning. So ask out, make a date, break down, stop operating, break up, end a relationship, call back, return a phone call. So this set is focusing on phrasal verbs and their meaning, and also a little bit of context. And as you know then from Quizlet, you can do all of these activities. The students can do these activities. They can test themselves, or you can set them up to do a test and send you a screenshot of that test. Heather Weger, you have a question. Can't hear.
I'm muted. Okay. How do you, I like Quizlet.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to know is your strategy for phrasal verbs that have more than one use. Like with even like breakdown, like I'm
Right.
I'm breaking down during COVID, trying to teach and manage
Right.
to children,
Right.
that
Right.
kind of thing.
So when we get to strategy number 2, tell me if you still have that question.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back to PowerPoint. So you saw this strategy focusing on frequency. By the way, I found this Quizlet. Someone else had created it, but I adapted it. I fixed some errors that I saw, and I added the context, because the original, you can take someone else's Quizlet if they've made it public, and you can adapt it and make it your own. Strategy number 2 is focusing on collocations. And so this is where you could get at the most common objects that occur after these phrasal verbs. And that should help you. For example, if you have a choice between teaching collocations, teach your students put on a sweater, put off a meeting, isn't that easier for students to remember than put on means add a garment of some kind to the human body, right? Or put off means postpone an event to a later date or time. Rather than teaching definitions, if you give the students one of the most common objects, or if it's an intransitive phrasal verb, you could add one of the most common subjects, but for most part, they're transitive, and so the objects are helpful in remembering the meaning or prompting the meaning of the phrasal verb. So put on a sweater, put on shoes. The students can choose whatever one will help them remember the meaning. A side benefit, when you teach them with collocations, then students are ready with some common phrases that they can just plug in context. They already know the verb and the object and how that could function as a unit in a spoken sentence or a written sentence. Where can I find collocations? You can go to COCA, the Corpus of Contemporary American English, but I really like justtheword.com. And this is a screenshot from justtheword.com. This is the second most frequent verb in English. And you can see that justtheword.com is going to show you from the long green lines which are the most common objects that would come after the word carry out. So the most common ones are carry out your duties, carry out a task, carry out your work, and carry out research. All of those are very much related, right? Research, work, task, duties. Your functions are like tasks in this case. So we can see that the most common way to use carry out is some kind of responsibility or work that you have to do. And let's see, Chris, I told you that we might do breakout rooms once, but actually it might be twice.
Okay.
I lied. So I'm going to ask you to open up another screen. Actually, we don't need breakout rooms for this, depending on how many people we have. Chris, how many people do we have?
Currently at 15.
15. Okay, so I'm going to skip number 2 because that's already done. But let's see. I'm going to assign each of you to go to justtheword.com and find some of the most common objects. Is everybody ready? Make a little note. Christina, go on. Sharon, set up. Linda, pick up. Amour, go back. And Patrick, come back. Liz, go out. Glenn, point out. Lee, find out. Alaise, come up. Danny, make up. And Natalia, you can choose whatever you like. So I'll give you a minute to go to justtheword.com, look for the long green lines, and then report to me what you find. If you can't remember your number, just pick one. And when you have some answers, give me a thumbs up or a wave. Heather, did I give you an assignment? You can pick one.
No, but yeah, then you said I could pick one. So
Right.
I was going to do breakdown, but I think that's is that intransitive?
Well, you're supposed to choose one of these 10.
I know.
But yeah, you could try breakdown and tell us what the most common subjects are.
Okay. Is anyone else having trouble getting the website to pop up? Nancy, for some reason, I can't get justtheword.com to come up. What am I doing wrong?
Is anybody else having trouble? I
Yeah.
have had that trouble on other days.
Yeah, I have the same issue.
Everybody's having the same problem?
I would recommend, so what should hopefully help is go to Google and just search just the word, and then the first item should be the website, should be the correct link.
Yeah. I added a strong.
Computers are fun.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
Okay, so we're trying to find the subject associated with art.
Probably the object in most cases, if it's a transitive verb. So you're looking for the longest green lines and then see what's associated then with that.
Just because I'm being a rebel, I looked up breakdown.
You do that. I expected it from you.
Did you want us to chat you? Is that what we do when we find it?
Nope. Nope. You're going to tell me.
Oh, okay. I'll be quiet now.
Is anybody ready with their verb? You can tell me your verb or your number. Heather, what goes with breakdown?
Barriers. I was thinking it was intransitive, like I broke down, but but yeah,
Right.
you break down barriers.
Right? Anybody else?
I've got for find out, the top one is way. So I guess find a way out. Then things, people, truth, and information.
Right. And one of the interesting things about find out, actually, I'm going to stop the share and share that particular one, which I have open. So if we go to, I'll show you something else about. So find out, and you said one of the find out was with way is a long one. If you
Way.
click on the actual words, is everybody seeing my screen? You can see what's really going on here is, and you could have the students do this. In a lot of cases, it's find out the way to, right? The way to do something. So you'll find lots of examples of the way to a place or ways to tolerate. So when you see just a little bit of the just the word, it sometimes doesn't give you enough context to see what's really going on. So in this case, I'm going to go back to this version and add, it's often way, not like road or direction, but a way to do something. Anybody else want to add? Who had go on? If you're ready, just unmute, go ahead and speak.
Okay, just takes time. So go on, I had go on a holiday, and then also other large ones are go on a tour or on a train. So those are all similar ideas. On strike.
Those are the ones with the long green
Yeah,
bars. Okay,
go on sale.
right. So I should have said maybe just the top three. But on
Yeah, I
sale-
just included train and tour because they were a little bit under, but they were similar to holiday.
Oh, okay.
Holiday was used most.
Right. And you could kind of group those together, right? Holiday, tour, train, they all involve go on a trip of some kind. Setup. Anybody ready with?
There, them are in this committee. Those are the high. You can't hear me, I think.
Right, your audio is difficult. You want to try again?
Not good.
It's in the chat. Set up.
Oh,
a
it's in the chat?
business
Okay.
Committee
Can
group.
somebody read it to me? Setup.
A company,
Yes,
business, committee, group, and system.
group and system.
Okay, all right. Somebody had pickup? You can
Yes,
s-
hi, I have pickup. It's Linda.
Yep.
The most common was pickup phone, then pickup piece, and pickup bag.
Okay, right. So probably you would find a piece of something if you click and get the fuller context later, right? Go back. Somebody had go back, or maybe it's in chat and somebody can read it to me.
No, go back. There's several things.
Okay.
There's time, there's place.
So there was like go back to a place.
Go back to a place, like to or go back to
time,
a time,
a time.
and one back to the, and then the other one to the familiar and an unanswerable question.
But the long green bars were place, time, and go back to a question.
Yeah, and then the other one was, yes, question.
I can see that in a business meeting, right? I want to go back to the question about something.
Yes. Yes.
How about come back?
Yes, we had people come back at time and back to, back
So
into.
did people come back before then? Was people the subject?
It was the subject.
Okay, so people come back
Also,
to a different place or, Mhm.
man come back and word come back, memory come back.
there's a case where come back is intransitive, so you would have some most common subjects. And maybe come back to a place also then. How about go out?
We have heart goes out,
So another one that could be intransitive, right?
light goes out. And then child, man, people, women go out.
Okay, so we'll put person maybe. Light went out, my heart goes out. And another thing you can do if you're having students use just the word to look for these, you can have them notice that my heart goes out to is almost always present tense. The light went out is past tense because you'd be describing a finished action in the past. But my heart goes out to is a kind of general feeling that hasn't finished yet. Right? So the students can also notice the verb tense that would come after. How about point out?
So the top three I got were point out things, point out fact, and then difficulty.
And the subjects are also quite frequent. The subjects report points out, critic points out.
I'm sorry, report and what else?
Critic. critic pointed out.
Point out or find out? Am I,
Point out.
okay, so I'll move that. Move that up here. And we're almost done. Come up.
So for come up, it first had like a man or person. So man come up to someone. The next most common was in terms of a question or a subject coming up.
Topic, subject.
And then in terms of a different usage of come up, coming up the drive or coming up the path or road. So some sort of aspect of the land or the
Okay. And the last one, makeup. This is one of those ones that Heather was asking about. We know that makeup has a lot of different meanings. What's the most common object for makeup?
Makeup, your mind. So I have a possessive pronoun plus mind. They're virtually all that. Make up your mind. Make up his mind, my mind.
Right. Make up your mind, my mind, his mind. He couldn't make up his mind. All of those, right. So it seems like that's a, this is not a scientific study, but it's a good place to start with teaching your students one of the most common objects and therefore one of the most common meanings of each of these phrasal verbs. You can have your students do the research into collocations. You can set up a chart like this, give them some phrasal verbs, and ask them to use just the word.com to come up with the 3 most common objects that appear after these transitive verbs. And then from those objects, they should be able to write their own definition. And then they could double check it in the dictionary. But this way you're starting with the collocations and then using those collocations to extrapolate or solidify your understanding of the meaning of that phrasal verb. So how do we, after we find these collocations, how do we review? There is another way to do it. You can go to this Quizlet, which I created. It's the top 30 phrasal verbs, but not with a focus on the meaning, but with a focus on the collocations. And then from that, they should be able to remember. So see if I can do a new share without stopping this share. And it's going to take me to the top 30. So here, what I've set up is matching the phrasal verb with one of the most common objects. Go on talking, carry out work, set up a committee, pick up the phone. His memory came back, her voice came back. So this is a manageable group, maybe 30 is better than 100 for students to be practicing. The focus here is not on matching definitions, but on matching collocations with the phrasal verbs. Okay. Strategy number 3 is focusing on the particle meanings. It is common knowledge that phrasal verbs don't have an obvious meaning, but there are some particles. Let me talk for a second about why these are particles and not prepositions. Or does anybody else want to answer that? Why do we call these particles, even though they look just like prepositions? For years, I wondered why the textbooks would call them particles, until I realized that one of the answers is some of these are intransitive. There's no object to the intransitive phrasal verbs. So that little word up or on or out, it's not functioning as a preposition because it has no object. And I think that's why it's called a particle, especially when you get 2 of them together, right? Like get along with, when you put 2 phrasal verbs, 2 what we call prepositions together, but maybe they're not prepositions, because why would you put two prepositions next to each other like that, out of or along with? But if we call them particles, then we can feel more comfortable realizing, oh, they aren't prepositions. They don't have that function the way a preposition would. So you can focus on the particles to some extent. So for example, the preposition up means in a vertical direction. As a particle, it can also mean to stop or to do something completely. So here you have some examples. A lot of these examples involve completion or finishing something. Belt up, shut up, clam up, dry up, ease up, fix up, settle up, eat up, drink up, finish up. These are all phrasal verbs that include the idea of completing something or doing the job until you reach that finish or stopping point. The same thing happens with out. It can mean to go out, away from your house, or outside, the opposite of in, but it can also mean thoroughly or completely. So fill out the form, flesh out your outline. Some of these are British. Fag out, flake out, give out, meaning to give out, meaning to stop working, no more energy. So sometimes you can focus on particle meanings, and for that activity, tell me again in chat, how many people here have used Flippity? The tool, the online tools for Flippity. You can tell me in chat, yes or no. Okay, so if you don't learn anything else today, I'm really happy that I can share with you what Flippity is all about, because flippity.net has about 20 online tools, and they might be a little bit intimidating at first, but they're actually super easy to figure out. And so let me show you first how I created this exercise, and then I'll show you the exercise itself, because I want you to see how easy it is. So in order to create this drag and drop categorizing exercise that you're going to see in a minute, all I had to do was follow their directions to open up this Excel spreadsheet, or this Google Doc. I gave it my name, and this is going to be about phrasal verbs using out, off, and on, and collocations. And then I created the terms that I wanted the students to use. You'll see these in a minute. And then I created 3 categories. I made the word out in red. I made the word off in green. I made the word out in blue. I added a couple more. And then all I did was I went to File, and from File, I went to Publish to the Web. And then down here, you get the link. So I'm going to share with you that link so that you can work on this exercise in the breakout rooms. So first, at least one person, so everybody should go to chat, because at least one person in each breakout room is going to need this link. It's a long link. I'm going to put it in the chat. And then here's the Flippity link. If at least half of you open this link, hopefully you'll have a partner who you can share this with. So you can open this up, and Chris, could you go ahead and put everybody in breakout rooms with 2 people in a room?
2 people, sure.
In your breakout rooms, one of you should share your screen, and you'll be able to organize your phrasal verbs into the right category. Is the missing word out, off, or on? And you have about 4 minutes, maybe 5.
Okay, those rooms are open for all of you.
I'm going to visit the rooms if I can. Oh, I don't know if I can.
I'm not sure about that capability.
You need to make me a co-host if I'm going to visit the rooms.
So you are a co-host, but I don't think the co-host has breakout room missions. I can assign you to the rooms, and when you come back, I can assign you to a new one.
Okay, assign me to. Can you also visit a room and give them the link if they're lost? Can't hear you.
I accidentally joined a room myself, but I was
Okay.
informed me that only the hosts and co-hosts have the permission to share screens. So
Right.
let me see if I can fix that.
I just want to make sure that each of the rooms knows what they're doing. You could visit them.
So I will put you in a room, and then I'll go make sure everyone else has that ability now too.
Okay.
Nancy, we're here to be troublemakers. We did our assignment and it went well, but we want to know, I went to just straight up flippity.net. Do you have time to show us how you made that?
Yeah. So
students will really get a kick out of that, I think.
yeah. Well, yeah. So you go to flippity.net, and then they have all these different things. This one is fun. It's like a Jeopardy quiz show.
So weird. Your flippity.net screen looks different than mine because that's what I went there, but that's okay. Okay, so
this one is a random name picker. It's like a roulette wheel. You can put all the student names in, and then when you click at the top, it spins around, and then students find out who's going to be answering the next question.
Oh, here's this flippity manipulatives. Is that what we just did?
Right. So this is what you do. So if you click on instructions, you make a copy of the template, you put in your information.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one trick. You go to File, Publish to the Web, and then it's going to give you a link. Ignore that link. You have to go to the bottom of the page to find the Get Link Here tab, because the first link that it gives you when you publish is your link to edit and not the link for the students. Most of the time you can set it up. It's normally set up. If you decide you want to go back in and change something, if you see a typo, it'll republish automatically. If you go back in.
I'm wondering why when I went to Flippity, I saw something different than this. Maybe I clicked it in, typed it in wrong, but I'm gonna go and look at it again.
Or maybe it wasn't .net. I don't know.
Well, it says flippity.net, but and I have educational games, random name picker, flip book, flip board games.
Yeah, huh. Maybe I registered or something, although there isn't really a registration, and that's important. You have to keep track of your own long links because there isn't any login, so there's no way to go back and find it later. You have to bookmark your own flippity links.
Gotcha. Cool.
Do you have to create a different link for each pair or group of students?
Nope. No. So everybody can be there. It's not like Google Docs.
Yeah.
So your pair can be working on it and another pair can be working on it, and they can have different results.
This is something that you're so good at. You find these little hacks that are like So intriguing. Now, I saw you had an article in the WATESOL newsletter that just came out.
It
Is
includes, it includes Flippity.
okay.
Yeah, it's all the online links,
Yeah.
online tools. Mhm.
The newsletters are always so full of stuff. It takes me a while to get through it all. So cool. That's good to know. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't know if people are, Chris, do you have an idea if people are done? You want to check one room for me? See if they're done? And then if so, we'll just close all the rooms?
It's good to see you, Nancy.
Yeah, you too. I only get to see you through your hubby on Facebook.
Oh yeah, because he does Facebook. I
And you're
forget that I even
here.
have some footprint in the Facebook world, but yeah, that's right.
Well, it's usually either your kids or his food.
Yeah,
Those are the two things, or guitars.
that's yes. That's the kind of the things that are the safest. That way you don't accidentally step on someone's toes.
Oh, well, that's true. I was thinking those were his interests, which they are.
They are, but
But they're also the neutral interests.
yeah, yeah.
So Chris, what did you find? Can't hear you.
Looks like they were struggling with some settings like I just was. So I went ahead and have the rooms closing in the next 40.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So when everybody comes back, I'm going to show you one more cool thing about Flippity. And also, Heather, like
Yes.
some of the things I've created, like I have that Jeopardy template with prefixes, suffixes, roots, and syllable stress that can be used in any class. If you want, I can send you the link.
Yeah, do. I am. This semester's already set in stone, but next
Yeah.
semester is an evolving issue. So
We have the opposite. You know, the powers that be decided we would do 8-week sessions. So that means I have to start all over new on Monday. It would be just so much easier to just keep going with the 16 weeks, right? But new materials, new curriculum, new syllabus, new students.
at least we still have students.
Well, that's true. I'm going to go from 2 students in one class to 4.
Ooh.
Looks like
Now
we're back, Nancy.
I'll be able to do breakout rooms with 4 students.
Yes, you will.
So where is everybody? 1 minute is a long time when you're waiting.
It is.
We're back.
Oh, we're all here. Okay, we're here.
Oh, everybody's back and I just couldn't see it. I'm sorry. All right, everybody's back. So you probably ended up with 777. You're all English teachers, so I don't need to check your answers. But let me show you one more cool thing. Down here in the bottom right corner, there's a little wheel. The wheel always symbolizes settings. So this is like a nothing little thing, but it makes me happy. So I'm going to share it with you. You can change the background. So it's automatically going to be white fridge for the students. But if they like it and you like it, my favorite is wood grain. So sometimes it's nice to have something to work on, back out of, the plane took off. So you can change the background. That's the only other thing I wanted to say about it. These are some of the other Flippity tools. Lots of different things you can do to create things. One more thing I will say about the random name picker. In addition to picking names, the same function will randomly assign 3 to a group or 4 to a group or 2 teams of 5. So you can use this to organize your students in different ways. So Flippity manipulatives was my 3rd and final activity. So my final question today for you is in the chat, which of these strategies or tools will you try? We looked at Quizlet, the top 100, and you have that link, or I'll share that link with you in the Canvas site for WATESOL. Also the 30 focusing more on collocations, just the word, refining collocations, and the Flippity for categorizing and matching. Also, if you want to email me and ask, I can just send you the presentation that way. And that will have all the links in it. So I'm happy to do that too. Some people said flippity, top 25. Yeah, so I'm glad that I was able to introduce flippity. It's a fun thing. Just the word is useful when you're creating your own materials, but also you can teach the students how to do it so that they'll come back like you did for me. I will, and I'll get your email, but I might not be able to cut and paste all of them from chat, so email me. This is the bibliography, and this is how to reach me. Does anybody have questions? If you're asking a question, check if you're on mute. If you don't have any questions, you can let me know that too.
Questions? Thank you.
Okay.
No, Nancy, I can share if no one has a specific. How many minutes do we have left? 2, 3, 4, 1?
Oh, I think we have 5.
So because of the work I used to do with Andi Tyler, who did a bunch of semantic related research with phrasal verbs, like she did a ton of work to show that there actually are cognitive connections between the different words when you break it down and you go back to like the underlying meanings and whatnot. So I did an experiment with her to help see if you could make teaching materials using those theories. And it was great in the sense that the students sort of got it, like understood why that word was the way it was. The problem is that it was like a 20-minute lesson for them to go, aha, about 5 words. And, there's just so much that they need to accomplish that the scales of efficiency, like it's great to have that theoretical understanding, and maybe it can help you explain certain nuanced differences that are tripping students up. But in terms of practical, like boots on the ground, we got to turn it out and keep going. I really think this is these are very useful strategies you showed us today.
Right, focusing on the top 25, maybe you won't feel like you're not wasting the students' time just to learn some infrequent words. Some books like to group them like all the phrasal verbs that use make, or all the phrasal verbs that use take, or with the particles, all the phrasal verbs that use up. And I don't think that's quite as useful. I think students are more likely to confuse them later. And also, they're maybe not the most frequent words. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. I know you have another presentation at 2:15, so this will give you a little bit of a break before your next presentation. And like I said, if you email me, I'm happy to send it. Dan, I got your email from the chat, and I will send that to you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, everyone. The next session actually starts at 2:30, so you have a little.
Oh, 2:30. I was thinking that it would start right at 2:15.
No,
okay,
a little break, so get some coffee, get some water, or whatever.
There's a little more break in the afternoon then. Okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
And you can read Nancy's article in the WATESOL newsletter. She has an article in WATESOL's newsletter. Go read it.
About other online tools. Thank you.
Oh, cool.
It's all called Teaching Hacks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, Nancy, we're being recorded, but I'll still send you a nice virtual kiss and say I miss you guys.